mine, some of my dad's. I think some of these were Jim Murphy's, and some are borrowed from other people that I've bought over the years. My dad was going to do a slideshow here, and I'll do most of the presentation on it. If he wants to add stuff to it, or somebody wants to say something, then that's all fine and dandy. But what we got here is the starting of the CV. This is like the slide over here. I believe this was a Jim Murphy slide. No. This is the main office in St. Albans. This is the general office building. I would say 1970s. These steeples up top are all painted now one color, not that color. This is the St. Albans yard looking north. And I believe this is yours, Jim?
Yes, it is, yep.
Okay, this was a Jim Murphy slide my dad ended up with. In the foreground, you see the cement cars. And the way in, you see the chip train. The double mount track is right there, and then the two for the refrigerator track. Those three are gone. You got track 1, 2, 3, and 4. Track 3 is now gone, where you see the white car in the middle down here. The scale crossover is still there, and everything to the right of this picture is all still there. Anything else you want to add to that, Jim?
What's that?
Anything else you want to add to it?
110 feet up the top.
That's 110 feet from the ground up, and it sways pretty good down at nighttime when the wind blows.
The day I got up there, Harold Harvey was the superintendent of the railroad, and I asked him, what do I have to do to get permission to go up on the tower? And he says, look at his wife, he says, I'm going home. So I got his blessing without it really saying. I did both ends of the yard, both the north and south.
How many cars would it hold, Jim?
Well, in the days when I started out, 50-foot cars were your basic car, and track 4 would hold 45 cars. They put almost 5,000 feet of train between the crossings.
You're a lot of tracks for about 19 cars.
Yeah,
And then
these
the other
tracks
cars-
are going to hold 19 cane cars, maybe 20 box cars, depending on the size of your cars, but most of them will hold 18 to 19 propane cars, which will tell you about how long a car is. The far right is the main line.
Number 2 track from beside the engine house to North Junction, we could put 116 cars in there.
160. The track to the far right was the Lights building, and then the main line, and then the 23 track, which is gone now, which is a road where you can drive down through the yard with it.
And on the left is the ice house.
That's the ice house on the left, and actually at that moment, I thought it was still being used.
Built in 1929, they built it when they stopped harvesting ice at East Elbert and built their own ice house. Yeah.
The 2 tracks to the far left were tore up in, I think, 97. Because somebody wanted to use that building to do, they heard up.
Fertilizer plant.
Yeah, they heard up tore the tracks up, so.
That's what we call Ben Sidos originally.
You know what year this was, Jim?
Oh, it's gonna be early 80s.
Early 80s. And those cement cars right there are probably the ones that go to White River. This is the freight office.
I took that out.
The yard, which is abandoned now.
Doesn't look like that today.
No, it looks nothing like that today. The buildings are still there, except for that one in the background to the left. Is that still there, Jim? That pool house is gone though, isn't it?
I think that was there for a while.
Yeah, I don't think it's there now. But this is where the dispatchers would dispatch trains, their crews would all come together right here. They would get in that van and drive up to the engine house to get their power. And then the building to the left is where the signal maintainers parked their trucks and did all their signals. This is the St. Albans GLB. You got the 4559. And what you see here is the end of the CV's green engines, basically. The 2 in the back are GP40 Y-cab CN, and then bombardier cars on the head pin there down by the Amtrak station. This is probably leaving sometime during the week. But that was the chop nose 4559 that did at St. Albans shop.
That's that Norfolk and Western we saw before?
Last night? No, this is all CAV. And this was after they repainted this for the special. This is the second time it's been painted this color. That's another shot of it. I believe this is in Portland, Maine. In the 1776, I believe that's South Paris, Maine. And then these, I think these were all up in Maine. These are some of the slides that I purchased over the years. This was what they call the boo-boo blue. 4925 was painted Grand Trunk blue, and then towards the end, they painted them all that way. The other end of it. In the back, right, you see it on M420, Montreal Locomotive Works. So this is up on the Grand Trunk. Also up on the Grand Trunk. This was the black ones with the red ends. The CD box runner background, and the Sanders sanding shed up there. And this was the 3600. This is up on the Grand Trunk. You can see the CN power of the head up there, and the main central power meeting. But this 3600 is one of the paint jobs the RS11 shared. This is another one of the black GP9s. These are the passenger train engines. And you can see the 2-engine-pounder M420s. This is up in Maine too. The 3604. I believe that was up in Maine too. Is this the one that's up in Berkshire, Jim?
No, 3601 is in Berkshire.
3601, okay. I think this one here got cut up then. The CV Phil Larson Green 4042 was a GP9. This was a regular freight engine. I believe this is one of the ones that went to the St. Lawrence in Atlantic.
I think this one's in Portland, Maine.
Yeah, Portland, Maine, probably, yeah. The Quabog, which is with the 3600, 3605 in their colors. And this was, I'm not sure where this one was taken. But that's the Quabog.
Last time I saw one of the 3600 was up in Gore, West Virginia.
Yeah.
And the engine house up there parked outside.
This is the 3606 and the 3611. Both of these went to the Quabog, and they used a metallic green paint to paint those. This was at the General Office Building in St. Albans. This is one of my slides. This was probably taken in the 90s.
The noodle on the front end, that was Alan Irwin's doing.
What's that?
The noodle on the nose of the engine,
Yep.
that was Alan's.
That's Alan's, yep. He had a lot to do with some of this stuff, that's for sure. The second engine back is one of the 4600s that was rebuilt. This 4559 was redone in St. Albans. And the story I got was it took too long for the CV to rebuild the engine, so they shipped them out to Battle Creek instead. The 8081, which you know is in Willimantic. This was probably Noy River. If you look to the left of it, you can see the CV fuel tank car. The 3605, another one of the RS11s. This is some of the first CV GP38s, 5807.
It's in a wreck.
This was one of the ones that was wrecked, but this is, I think, before the wreck or after.
It's after.
I think it's,
It went to the PRR to be rebuilt, and
Yeah.
they put that squared off
yeah, the squared
Harold
out
on it.
yeah. This was at the St. Albans engine house. Incidentally, these engines were renumbered into the 4900 series when they went back to Grand Trunk. So 4 of these still survive. The others were all rebuilt with dynamic brakes on them. This is one of the 4600. You can see that cab is bigger than your normal cab. It's almost configured to a GP18 with just 2 fans on the roof. But the guys didn't like these engines because they were slippery and they were very cold in the wintertime. These were all at St. Albans, probably on a Sunday on my trip up to St. Albans or Rouse's Point. The 5806, this is the original when they first got them, when the CD first got these engines. Most of these were all renumbered to, or re-lettered to the CV afterwards. This was one of the ones that was wrecked down in Sharon, but this is before it was wrecked.
That was the night I was dispatching,
Yeah.
but 5 of them in the hole.
So one of the 4600s at St. Albans. The 5801, these guys were coming in. This is on the main line. The line towards us is the freight main. The 5800. Now this 5802 is when Railtex took over the railroad. And when I started working there in 1995, they still had some of these engines, they were using them. And what they would do is they'd run them till the 92 days were up, and then they'd ship them back to Montreal. We would put the engine out here in the yard, the CN would pick up and take it north. And it always came back the next day on 324, but after that, you never saw it again. And these all went out to Grand Trunk. And they ran them out there until Grand Trunk sold them. And I believe this is John Marcotte's caboose.
Yep.
This is up in Newport, when it was up there. I threw in some of the stuff that I had that pertained to CE preservations, and this is one of them. This is the CV boxcar that was painted green. This car is up in East Alberta now, it's still there. This was car still, this is in East Alberta too. This was a maintenance away car that was probably damaged or wrecked, and they turned it into their maintenance away cars. This is the Jordan spreader on the Vermont Railway when I worked there. And they were using it to ditch. And it was behind that 256 was one of the main central engines that the VTR ended up with. That one here was one of the ones they just got running and gave back to Helm. This is in Burlington Yardville. That Jordan spreader's been preserved now. It's all painted up in G&W colors, and they may have to use it this winter because they don't have a snowplow. This was taken right here in Montpelier. I don't know the story behind this. Bill might know. I don't know where this coach car ever went, but I was on one of my trips down here taking pictures, and this was one of the cars that was sitting here in Montpelier Junction, or right here in Montpelier City. I don't know what it was for, or where it was going, but it's a nice looking car.
Commuter car that somebody bought, was on its way.
This was another CV caboose preserved over at Conway Scenic, over where Dwight Smith saved a lot of railroads, a lot of memories. Another flanger that was saved over at Conway Scenic. Most of the people that preserved these cars actually stayed in these cars. And did they work for you at the railroad too, Dwight? Is Dwight still here?
No, he left.
He left. I think some of these people actually worked for Dwight, but he preserved a lot of this stuff that it's still there now for future generations to enjoy it.
I saw both of those cars within the last 2 weeks. They don't look as good as they do in that picture.
No, that's a long time ago when I was a kid. This here is a borrowed slide I bought from somewhere, or this may be a Chris Lynch picture. This is the CV 3608. With, like we talked about last time, what Bill says, they just generically took the C and turned it into their own thing. You can see this C turned into an L. This is what Bill was talking about last night. Alice made this engine here that took an RS-32 and painted it up like this. The green is off, the yellow is school bus yellow, and instead of putting the chevron V's on the end like this, they put it right around straight at the back. They really screwed it up. It's too bad. I realized it was an RS-32, but that's a predecessor to the RS-11s. But at least they could have did the decaling right. But
Where was this Joe?
this is over on the LVRC's, probably in
It's in Whitefield.
Whitefield or someplace like that, yeah. Could be St. Jay, I'm not sure where it was. And these are my dad's slides. This is where I started with my train enthusiasm. This is American Freedom Train on the CV in Burlington, Vermont. And this was parked right next to the lake where the boathouse is now and the CV freight house was. And this is 1975.
Reading 2124.
This is a beautiful engine.
That's the one that caught fire.
2100.
2101?
2101.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, this was in Burlington. And like I said, my dad took these slides.
I was working at Channel 3 at the time, ran. I was down on the waterfront taking pictures. They came over and offered me the job as chief photographer for the New England Run. And Channel 3 wouldn't let me have time off. I wasn't very happy.
So this is when they're gonna get ready to move the train. I believe they're moving the train out. This is in Essex Junction. You can see Maynard's Auto Supply is right there. This is on the straight that goes down to Burlington. This will be called the straight at Essex. Those tracks still exist, they're there now. But me, my dad, my Uncle Tom, or grandfather were there to watch this. And if you, this is servicing the engine, this person in the foreground was Uncle Tom.
Just like that.
Yeah. And I'm not sure who the guy was up on the front of the engine up there. I don't think it was, it's one of the crews for the Trent. I'm not sure who it was. This is North Williston. The train is headed south. This is milepost 105. And you can get somewhat of this picture nowadays, but the trees have all grown up in a lot of areas.
Right on the crossing?
This is right at Babcock's. Yeah. This is 105, 106. This is 106 is where the Amtrak train
Amtrak went in the hole,
derailed. It hit the washout. This is, actually, he's coming downhill right here, and then it starts to go uphill as he comes out of this
To
grade.
the left of you is where you can still find the foundation for the station,
Yeah,
and the pole where the train notice signal was,
yeah.
still there.
This is the 4600 at St. Albans. They're probably getting ready to leave on a Sunday, headed south. This was the start of the CV's 5800s on 324. This was on a Sunday. This is down towards where Bill Brigham lives. Sometimes I'd catch up with Bill down around Mud Pond or Montpelier, and we would chase together, and someone else would come along the way too. But you can see there's still a Grand Trunk on the fourth unit back there. So this is the start of the 5800s when the CV had great track and good locomotives that ran. This was at Sharon, when they used to set off cars for the lumberyard. This was on a Sunday. There's 6 units that day. So that's 12,000 horsepower. And probably John Waterbury running the engine, which was one of the better engineers, because he'd always wave to you. This was at Mud Pond. It's in the wintertime. Also at Mud Pond where the little brook goes under the tracks right here. This is kind of flat right here. The track's all flattened out right here, and then it goes around the next curve, goes down by the hatch, and it drops right off and all the way down through. There's a couple of dips in the tracks where you can let your train relax and catch up with you. But
Just above the.
this spot right here is pretty flat.
Just above the CV engine is a quarry up there.
Yeah, that's where the quarry was. Just north of this is where the tracks got into that quarry. The rails are actually still there. There's a whole pile of rails there.
Green marble.
This was at St. Albans. Here again in the Grand Trunk colors. These were all rebuilt. If you look to the left there, that's when, or the right there, that's when the CV used to unload their own fuel oil. They used to get it in by rail. That, to the left there, you can see the sand car. That sand car still exists there. It's up on cement. And that's a Detroit South Shore hopper car. This is at Bolton. This is 324 leading south on a Sunday when they ran days. This is at Richmond. This is 323 going north. This is at the Richmond cross. You can't get this picture anymore. There's a grocery store right here now.
You're standing where the freight house used to be.
I am. Well, the freight house is behind me.
Okay.
The freight house was still there behind. And this is what Bill was talking about last night, about the CV having a fight with the management about cabooses, and Jim probably knows more about it than I do. But I heard it on the scanner, and they had cabooses on the end of the train. This is a 324. And this is at that spot where Bill had the picture of him cutting up one of those blue hopper cars. This is the spot right here. This is where they derail. This is where they finally pull them for 4 miles, and they finally blew the air on them. And this picture right here is at Duxbury. As everybody knows, that poplar tree was always in the way. And Jim, like Joe Fisher says, all kinds of cuts on the bottom from an axe, but nobody could cut it down. It's even worse now, you can't see this
The
now.
picture that Jim Shaughnessy did for
It's all
Bob.
gone now. You can't
He
see
cut all the
this.
trees down. He had
The other
trees
side
down.
is on.
Yeah, yeah.
Everything.
I'm not sure if Bob Jones put this in his book or not. But this might be one of the ones in Bob's last book. Because mine appeared in there. I'm not sure if he did this one or not. But that's a Sunday because there's 6 units.
Is that in Georgia?
No, that was Duxbury,
Duxbury.
right by the interstate. And this spot right here is Middlesex. That's the station on the left, West Route 2. This was always a neat spot. The lumber yard is on the right there. When Railtex first took over, we actually had a card for these guys that, for some reason, they didn't set it out. They made 4 round trips to Palmer and back before they finally set the car out there.
Couldn't figure out.
It had to be set,
Well, they didn't have time to set it off, so they ran back to Novus. And it had to be a northbound train because the switch faced north.
the station to the left used to be on the right side,
Yeah, was
and
it?
they moved it across, yep.
Okay.
That's when they changed the highway.
But this is a nice spot to take a picture with 324 on a Sunday, which they don't run days anymore, so it's kind of hard now. You know, it leans to the side, it's got everything you need. And this one right here is, this is out of Richmond. This is a late running 323 early in the morning. And I was living in Richmond for a while there, and they're on the siding right here, as you can see. So they're gonna meet the Montrealer, I believe, or the Montreal's gonna pass them here or something. But they're on the siding in Richmond. And this is Richmond too.
Just north of Richmond?
Yeah, this is, well, this is, where that one was, I probably walked up further up, this is just coming by. You can't see these spots like this anymore, they're hard to tell anymore. But that's at Richmond also. So this is the start of the CV using CN power run-through. These are the 6-wheel Yamahas that they used to run the wide cabs. And I'm not sure if this was the first trip with the 6-axle engines or not. I remember taking it because I saw the train at Milton. And I saw Paul Larner out there, so I knew it was the first day. And we had heard about it in the NRHS meeting, they were going to do this. And then the CN had a bunch of leased SD40-2s in the background. That's a UP engine. This is one of the first trains they used on a Sunday to run south with 6-axle power. This is an HR 616. This was sometimes on the train. This was the 2100s. These engines were used up until they were done with them. They like to use these as leaders because you could put a picnic table in the cab. There was a lot of room in these engines. These were all built in Montreal. And they like to have them as leaders, but having them as leaders, a lot of these got wrecked and washouts and stuff of that sort. And last time I knew, these were still sitting in Chicago or out in Illinois at a locomotive rebuilding spot for parts. They reused these numbers when they bought a bunch of GEs from UP here about 10 years ago. They reused them numbers. But one day we had the HR 616 trailing with an EMD and a GE and another EMD. And it's a rare sight to ever see that on a big railroad. But you had GE pushing 2 GMs and the Elko pushing all 4, pulling the train all together. But they tried running at us, the 50 cars with just that one engine. It was a struggle. The HRs were high reliability, 6-axle, 16-cylinder diesel engine. I believe they were almost 3,900 or 3,700 horsepower. But, you know, the weight's what makes them pull. And they only had 2 that day. This was at Colchester. This is where I hit that car that was in the middle of the tracks last winter. The guy that was stoned in the wintertime, stopped in the middle of the tracks, and stuck on the crossing. I hit him with a chip train. When that second white car is way in the third white car in the back here is where I stopped with just light power. And you can see the Elko's putting out a little bit of smoke. But this is all uphill right here. The He's just about another quarter mile, it'll kind of take a dip, and then it'll go down, build them out, close to 112 at Colchester Station.
So you're just 5 miles, 114 then?
Yeah. This is another one of the HR 616s. This is the 2118. They call these are the original Draper tapers. The reason that they made that car body was so the snow didn't get on the walkways. Most of these were used over in New Brunswick, over in that area with the Draper tapers, but they came back to Montreal. This was their last stampede, was out of Montreal before they were traded to one of the dealers in Illinois. When I got to move one of those one day on the shop track when I started working there, because they were still using these in '95, and that literally that cab, you could put a picnic table inside that cab. It was that big. It was pretty neat. That's the front view of it. They're getting ready to back onto the train at St. Albans. And this is some of the 324s when they leave St. Albans. You got the lease power in the background. That's a GM lease engine. This is on a Sunday, leaving St. Albans. This is right in the yard. This is at Middlesex with a CV 324 using the CM power. The 9400s are GP40Ws. The 53s were SDs. This was at right here in Middlesex, Montpelier. This is coming into Berlin where Montpelier Junction is. Actually, Montpelier Junction is the town of Berlin. And this is on a Sunday. This is a neat spot to take a nice picture too. The sun's right on the nose and you can get the rest of the train in the background. This was at Richmond, down where the co-op was. These guys are coming north. This is on a 323 northbound. The 9600s, some of those engines still survive. Most of them are gone. The VTR's got some 9600s. Some of their wide cabs, that's what their numbers were. This spot here is just where they put the new bridge in, just north of DuBois Construction. This was a great spot to get a picture of 324 leaving on a Sunday. It's all grown up now. You can get some of this picture, but not much. This is a nice spot. Those are, they got 9,000 horsepower there. They got a pretty good sized train on a Sunday. And there's a couple of shots in this area here. Some of them are dark, a little bit dark. Gives and take with no sun on a Sunday with photoplanes. Pick up a little bit of snow. This is what they call pumpkin curve. He's catching a little bit of snow there. And that's another GP40-2 white cap. Now this is the Duxbury, and I believe this is the last CV train out of St. Albans. And this is in Bob Jones's book. This is 1995, I believe it's February 4th. The last CV 324, not the last train, but the last 324. This would have been a Richmond coming south. They were starting to mix in the CV Grand Trunk power with CN power to take the train south. Same way, this is the 5800. Like I said, they're starting to use CN power on the CV train, so this engine is probably being taken to Palmer or White River or someplace like that for their switcher unit. That's the 1500. That's freshly painted. And I believe this is somewhere down around where Bill Brigham lives in Randolph. And this here is Bolton. This is another Sunday train coming south. This was another nice spot to catch the train. Now this is the spot they were talking about last night. This is actually Jericho, Vermont.
Yeah, right.
This is one spot we go through in Jericho, even though they went to Jericho the other way. This is one spot we come into Williston in the foreground. In the background is Williston, Jericho, and they're going to come into Richmond. So the train's actually in 3 towns all at once. And this is the starting of running the SDs on the CV. You can see the two Grand Trunk cars. Those are the cars from Sharma Limestone going to Willimantic.
It's like Richmond over by the
Yeah, this would have been Richmond
store
too.
over there.
Yeah, this would have been by the Lucky Spot.
Yeah.
And this is the Montrealer. He's coming through Richmond. Early morning, headed north. Like I said, that spot was a lumber store. That's all grocery store now. You can't. You can get this picture, but you can't get the other one. And the Blue Seal building and some of those buildings in the background, those are all gone
If
now.
you're standing just about where the old station was.
Yes.
for it.
Yep, yep,
It burned down in the 70s.
yep. That's the Montreal in the winter time, because they put 2 engines on it. That's at Richmond. He's headed north. I'm thinking these are at 95. When I started working for the New England Central, this is some of the last of the Montrealers. This could have been the last day of CV operations too, coming north, with the Montrealer going north. Because I was in St. Albans pretty early in the morning to catch the activities. I took the day off of work just for this event. So. Okay, it was. This is the Montrealer. He's coming through North Junction. He's on the main line there, headed north. This here was at Richmond with the Montrealer headed north. I think this was the day I saw one of the cars dragging. The brakes were locked up. So we got some of the predecessor trains that were on the CV. This is down at Waterbury Junction when the New Hampshire and Vermont was running that track. This 3800 actually was at the VTR for a while. This was one of the main central engines that came down. I believe this was the 263. The nose was bent on this engine. It smoked like the devil when they started it up, and it needs more work than they want to do with it. So these guys, this was rebuilt and then leased to New Hampshire and Vermont. That's a 3800. This was at St. Albans. This is where the fuel stand is now. There's a rack over there now. It's showing the noses with the Ohio crane in the background. They got the CN North America on the side of the cab. Some more of the 5800s. This is like the other one I just showed you. This is on its way back to Montreal. Never to come back again.